Welcome back to the Fear
and Beer podcast,
where we discuss all things Halloween Horror Nights, horror movies,
and just a little bit of beer.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Seamus.
Like scary movies.
Uh-huh.
Here's Johnny.
It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Did you miss me?
Aren't you drinking? I never drink. Why?
Before we get into tonight's episode, we want to remind all of those listening on Apple Podcasts to drop us a 5-star review. It helps us grow as a podcast and build our audience. If you're listening on Spotify or any other platform, follow us, and don't forget to share with friends and family who might have a little bit of the strange in them as well.
And while you're on those socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, be sure to find us, Fear and Beer Pod. Give us a like, share, and you can always message us. We love to interact with all you guys. Well, would you look at that? We are back 3 weeks in a row now. We were. It's almost like we're getting back in stride of things here at Fear and Beer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Of course, you'll notice that
we're on a hot
if you're
streak.
watching on. Yeah, I mean, it's true. And if you notice, if you're watching on YouTube, we obviously are not in the same room again. But at least we're getting episodes out there, right? So
we are. We're doing.
We're doing
there.
it from.
We're getting there. It's selfishly, to the people that do watch on YouTube, it is a whole lot easier editing these remote episodes and setting up for them and giving more time to think on things, because that takes a little bit of time. It really does. It doesn't seem like it does. It takes a little bit of time putting up the lights and editing and nonsense.
Despite contrary belief, I do not live with Nicholas. We're not in the same
If
building
you do
together.
think that, you are wrong.
Yeah, no, I live. I don't live that far away from him, but it's far enough where if I have to go that direction for one thing, come home and then go back in that direction, it's a pain in the ass. So
Yeah,
it's easier to just do this remotely in that situation.
Oh, it's much easier, but we're not abandoning that.
So we apologize to the
easier.
So apologies to the 10 people who watch us on YouTube.
Right. Some of them got for whatever reason, I think our most watched video is our live draft episode that we did during our week leading up to HHN.
Doesn't surprise me.
It's like almost like 200.
Yeah, it
crazy.
doesn't surprise me.
But it is fun. I do want to rewatch that at some point just to look back on things. So let's get into some stuff. We decided to discuss potential shows, stage shows, something of sort of that nature, because while I was at the park this weekend and I saw the stages set up, and originally I had posted thinking that they were for Mardi Gras, but apparently it was for the Rock the Universe, which is something I was completely unaware of. But there was these big full concert-like stages set up in various spots of the park.
There was.
And it got me thinking, what could we add? Is it possible to add these for HHN? Is it too crazy? Are they too big? Are they in the right spots? And so we decided to kind of have an episode to dive into, I don't want to say possibilities, but ideas that maybe these could be potential people eaters, especially with the unknown, the unknown of the Fear Factor stage. We know that the Fear Factor show is done. They had it open for Halloween Nightmare Fuel this year, but it's been kind of quiet on that front. Whether demolition is going to happen for that before the year, or are they going to start stripping stuff away from it? So we don't even know if we're going to have that, but that's kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be talking about potential show locations, potential shows, some stuff to add that could be fun, maybe blasts from the past, maybe just completely new ideas. But that's what we're going to be getting into today. But as you all know, before we get into that, we have beer in our name for a reason. So tonight I'm tapping into, it's called Love and Ritual. It's a 7% hazy IPA from Great Notion Brewing. They're out of Portland, Oregon. This doesn't seem to be one of their prominent highlight beers. It's got good reviews, a 0 IBU, so that's nice little New England style IPA. Probably got that haze on there. It is hopped full of love with Nelson, Sauvin, Citra, and Sabro. So probably gonna have some fun taste, some funky taste in there. It has a little Grim Reaper style character next to a bear in a cloak that are looks like they're praising a fire, which is of course coming from a hop. So interesting enough to check out. So that's what I got. What do you got? Anything special? We tapped into the silver bullet.
No, I'm drinking Bud Light, not Coors
Oh,
Light tonight, so it's a little different. But
all right.
no, no, I do not currently have.
And what is the percentage on this Bud Light you speak of?
I don't
is
even know.
it
Water. What is
was it
it?
4.5? Oh well,
I honestly, I don't think I've ever really looked. I think it's like 3.5, 4% or something like that. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I can't tell. It's dark in here.
well, this one is good. I didn't pour it out because I'm being a garbage person. I'm drinking it right from the can. I know.
Nothing
I
wrong
know.
with that. No video. No
Come at
proof.
me. But from the little peephole I get inside the opening, the mouth of the can, it looks like pineapple juice. That's the haze color of it right now. I'm sure if I poured it out, it would be similar. It doesn't have like a really strong citra kick you in the mouth kind of thing, but it's good. Most like most of those hazy New England IPAs, it's surprisingly refreshing. It's weird saying an IPA is refreshing, but the New England styles seem to kind of cover the bases for me in that regard.
Well, if it's 0 IBU, yeah, it's going to be smooth and not bitter at all. So
Yeah, that is good. A little bit of that that hop style taste at the end, to be expected, but it is still. I like this one. I like this one a lot. I've definitely been gravitating towards those New England, like the hazy IPAs lately. A lot of the New Belgium's Voodoo Ranger. It's kind of been I've been kind of gravitating towards those versus the typicals of my past, which has been the Berliner Weisses / sours, and then of course again I feel like in the wintertime I get more into that porter, dark stout style beer, but then as springtime comes around, I feel like I go towards the hazies, and then summer's usually full of light beers because it's just too damn hot to drink anything fun, and then October's strictly pumpkin anything. Whew. All right, so should we dive into these? Like, I don't even know I guess what we could probably start with is, just by walking around the park, potential locations that these things could pop up at, places that could support the crowd. You almost want to do not a crazy big stage because you don't want to get a crowd that outsizes your ability to hold that. But are there any spots in the park that are kind of jumping out to you where it's like, hey, this actually is kind of a dead area? We could probably maybe sneak something in there. And obviously with all these ideas, we're just going to go with the fact that we're going to assume Universal could make it happen. Logistic wise, we're not going to get down to the nitty gritty of all, like, maybe there's a code and they can't put something there. That's we're unaware of all those. So we're just going to kind of to throw ideas out there, and maybe they stick, maybe they don't. But that's kind of my take on where, like, location wise, where stages could be day in, day out. We're kind of, I mean, I'll try and hold daily operations in the back of my mind a little bit, but I'm really I don't have many of those plan. If there's certain parade routes or in and out of workers there, I don't know the the minutia of that, so I'm gonna disregard that a little bit. But is there any, like, areas you think we could pop a stage in somewhere and add a little something?
If we're obviously not including the permanent stage that they have by the roller coaster.
Yeah.
The easiest one is where they have one of them right now, which is
Mhm.
kind of in that little street side, that, like, not side street, but that street between the movie theater where the tribute store was, and on the other side where Transformers is. That little street. I think you actually wrote it down as
Oh yeah,
the
that
Blues
Blues, like
Brothers
where Blues
Alley
Brothers.
or whatever. Like, that's kind of that's where one of them is right now, right?
Yeah.
So, because we were there on Sunday and we walked by them and we weren't really sure what they were for, but I think that's probably one of the best places. That's probably why they put that one there, because it doesn't block, too many. It's not impeding the flow of traffic, I guess is my point.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, yeah, you lose that like kind of that crossover there, but it's not like you're blocking off an entire way, from one side of the park to the other. Like if you put it in a way where it would block off where a lot of the traffic kind of walks through, that kind of gets kind of difficult. But if not there, another place I was thinking about is where they had Conjure the Dark.
Yep. Yep.
I think that area, if you push the stage far enough back to where the exit of the Fast and the Furious ride is, you could probably stick one in there. Or even if you, I know they're probably going to use this area as a house, but if you took where the queue for Black Phone and Freaky was,
Mm-hmm.
you could almost put a stage kind of back there too.
Yeah.
Obviously, like we said, we're not really taking logistics into play here, so I don't know, if it blocks off traffic for like universal traffic during the day
Yeah.
or not. But it's trying to come up with areas like you said that don't really run you into a situation where like I said, impede flow of traffic in any way, or make it almost unsafe to have a large crowd of people kind of just milling about.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's hard. I mean, granted, these stages don't have to be big. I mean, I don't know if the idea was that these stages are going to be like full concert stages, because the one in that's the Blues Brothers area kind of looks like a concert stage.
Yeah.
Obviously, they could have smaller stages like what they had for Zombieland, or for, again, Conjure the Dark. That was kind of like a small stage. Like you could have something like that kind of fit in to smaller areas, but there's not a whole lot of area in the park that lends itself to it. That's the problem.
It is tough. It is like cramped, and I had San Francisco on my list as well, and that was almost in my head what I thought was, if we had something like you said similar to Conjure the Dark, and then abandon that as a scare zone and move a scare zone location around so that it is somewhere else, so that little, it would, I mean, it's bottlenecked anyways, regardless of if there's a show or not there. So like you said, get a little couple pieces that piece together as a stage. You can roll it out, push it back a little bit further, but by abandoning the scare zone aspect of it, you're going to have a little bit more space, because you don't have to worry about the actors walking through the crowds. You don't have the little mini set pieces on the side. So, you could possibly stick something in there. I mean, just imagine Conjure the Dark without the roaming, full roaming characters, without the big cave setups, and then have that not as like a full scare zone, but as just a little stage show. If they did the show itself and then they left and then they came back, you do it every 30 minutes or every hour or something like that. You could elaborate the show aspect of it a little bit, take down the scare zone aspect of it, and maybe that would be something that would draw people there that weren't going there for a scare zone, and then the people that were going there for scare zones can be separated over to wherever that other scare zone location is, where they could have it where they had Killer Clowns scare zone, which was kind of that little back part of, like, right in front of where the Starbucks area is and across from the Transformers ride, in that little area. I do like that little, and I'm trying to think about it in my head location wise, that what I refer to as that little Blues Brothers alley. It's the one that runs parallel to all the food over by the smoking section, and then the section to the left of it is that little meaty meats area. And I thought about it too. I mean, it really is just a passageway. There really is nothing there. So to cap that, put a little stage at the end like they have. If you haven't seen it right now, they essentially have a big elaborate, concert stage, lights, the whole shebang. And you could do something in there where you could funnel crowd in there. It would be much like funneling them into the Water Lagoon show and funnel them back out into the scare zone when it's over. It would be one entrance, one exit, in and out the same area. But I think something there would be cool. Obviously, it would cut through that pass through, but like you said, it's not like you're doing it in front of Rip Ride Rocket, where you're making a giant like loop around situation. This is, you don't go through that little alley for much. So to eliminate that from traffic flow to add a people eater, I would be down with that. Um, it seems like a bigger stage, but the stage over across from Mel's Die-In, now that one would get funky because it's right in front of the scare zone and it's right in front of the lagoon. So logistically, I don't know if that necessarily would work with the lagoon flow, but I think I don't think it impedes the scare zone that much. And if anything, it kind of hides a little bit of it. So I like it in that aspect. I would love to have a show there. They used to do stage shows there in the past too. And this might be a whole nother episode for us, just diving into past shows. Because when I was starting to kind of research this a little bit, it's these, quote unquote shows. If you look back to like Fright Nights 1, they had 20 shows. Now they refer to like shows as like the little side stage characters doing like one-offs and stuff like that. But that was something of the past that they sort of abandoned. And the Mel's stage area, that's where, before the show that was previously at the Fear Factor stage, the Academy of Villains. I shouldn't really say their name, but that's the stage area they were at, and that's also where the Carnage Returns was in 2015, and they had Jack's Carnival of Carnage there in 2007. And there's a plethora of shows that run from all the way from 91 to 2006 that were in that area as well. Obviously, in those earlier years, you didn't have to worry about the giant flow of traffic and the amounts of people that they deal with now, but it's been done before. Obviously, then they did not have the Lagoon show going on. But I'm just going to, like we said earlier in the episode, I'm going to bank on Universal finding a way, because that, when I saw the stage there, I was just like, wow, I never even really like imagine. I knew they had the Jack show there, and I just didn't really look too in depth because we don't really research, past shows and stuff like that. We've never really discussed that aspect of the event. I knew it was there, but I only saw like close up pictures, so I didn't truly understand the full magnitude of the size of it. But it was a good size. Obviously, the last time it was there, there was the last bigger ones. It was 2017, 2016, 2015. So we're not like too far out of those busy years.
Yeah, and we could almost do without the Lagoon show too. Like, I understand I understand why why it's entertaining, because I think it's really interesting what they can do with the lagoon, with the water effects and the music and the lights and the projection mapping and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of things that they can do with it that's interesting. But on the other side of that token, I think you and I both agree that, like, once you see it once, it's kind of like, all right, I don't need to see that again. I feel like if they would rather do the stage there, I feel like they'll get more people to stop and watch regularly. And the one hard part with that area is, with as busy as some of the busier nights as horror nights can get, that one may impede traffic a little bit. They'd have to do a pretty good job of keeping the flow going at least into the scare zone, because you're right, it does block that entrance into that little wooded area. I don't know what they call it, what do they call it, San Francisco or whatever it is, but you have to set it up in a way that if you have a stage show of some kind or a musical act or something like that, that you block it off to the right side enough that people have a pathway to walk. Not everyone's going to want to stop and watch. And if it's enough people where they're now like blocking the walkthrough, it kind of creates a bottleneck, and it kind of hurts the scare actors in that zone too, because we've said before, that's the best scare zone area. We don't really want something to come in and like impede on that scare zone either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I feel like that should be like that. Well, maybe that's just my own personal opinion. Maybe it's not something that like is true with everybody, but I don't think that scare zone should be impeded in any way, because it's kind of like the main attraction in that area.
Yeah, I mean, the worst part of it is like it's almost become too good. It's become so crowded and cramped in those ones because I think
Right.
that it sucks because it's not necessarily always my favorite scare zone, but it's always my favorite location. And they just kind of they get
Yeah, like,
hurt by how small it is and how many people are coming to it now. It's almost like you do have to limit how many people can pass through it at a time, but you can't. So it's just you're kind of you know failing because of your own success.
right. I mean, it just naturally benefits from the environment over there. Like it naturally just benefits from the, you know, the best way to
The
put it,
atmosphere.
the landscaping is like
Yeah.
it works the best. It
Mhm.
create, like you said, the atmosphere. It creates that atmosphere just being the way it was designed as just as an area of the park. Like every other scare zone, it's kind of open, kind of feels like a theme park in a way. But this one, it's like, you know, it just lends itself to a haunted attraction. You almost feel like you're leaving a theme park for about 10 seconds until you get to the other
Mhm.
side. So
Yeah,
I
it
don't think
does.
the stage there completely ruins it. I'm not like trying to say that like I think the stage shouldn't be there, because the stage, it is a good area for a stage. I just don't want it to be one of those areas where there's enough people making it hard for others that aren't planning on standing there
To get around.
to
Yeah.
get around it. That's
Yeah.
the only thing I worry about.
And that's the one thing that I do like about that whole like Blues Brother Alley, where it's like you go in and you're out of the way of traffic. You can't come in and out through that way. It would eliminate that. So the only reason for going in would be to see that show, versus where if the stage
Right.
was in front of Mel's, it's everyone watching the show is now in pathways in the flow of traffic a little bit. So that's why I like that little area a little bit better. We talked. We I think you mentioned earlier that stage up by like in front of Rip Ride Rocket. Um, I mean, it sucks because like you need to have a queue line there for those houses, but if you didn't, like it would be. I mean, it's a no brainer for a little show area because it's already there. You have the seating area thing. So like I would try and maybe if I had to use that or if I had to pick that, like there's got to be a way to rewrap the queue where it doesn't take up that entire area, because you don't want to just put on a show just for the people in line, because that doesn't do anything for you. That doesn't it doesn't get people away from anything else. It just gives people in line something to watch, which is cool. But like the whole benefit of these shows is to draw people somewhere else. So maybe if that zigzag portion was cut like in half, and you could watch the show like on the left side and the right side is the shortened zigzag. I guess you want to put your big money houses up front. We had some pretty big houses up there of previous years, but then I feel like this year with like Spirits of the Coven was there, the line never really, I mean, unless it was a Friday or Saturday night, the line wasn't all the way, from the front of the entrance of the house all the way wrapped around back out all in front of Rip Ride Rocket area.
Yeah.
It was pretty not utilized.
I mean, if we
So
want
if
to,
you put some of your, like, I don't want to say weaker houses, but you're gonna put one of those originals that you're kind of rolling the dice on over there,
yeah.
just to take up,
I
just so
mean,
that way you can afford to put a stage show there and limit the queue line.
yeah, I mean, the only other option, if we wanted to utilize that stage for something, you could potentially, because we noticed how much space they had the queue for what's the prison one that they
Hell
had,
block.
Hell Block, and how big that extra room was, and they
Mhm.
had that queue set up in there. Because I guess their assumption was that the Last of Us, not the Last of Us, was it the
Oh,
Last of
Evil
Us?
Dead Rise.
Evil Dead Rises was going to be like that big of a wait. Like
Yeah.
you could potentially, where Coven was, take away that house completely,
Mhm.
open up that area for the stage,
Mhm.
and then put the house behind Men in Black again.
Yeah,
And then
put
you
another
get
tent back up there.
then you get 10 houses. I mean, you do lose a sound stage, but I mean, if you needed to, my thing is like I think that that stage should only really be used if they have a big enough reason to. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I'm not saying like I get sorry, hold on.
Yeah. But I think what you're saying there too is like, I mean, if there was no queue line there, it would be a great spot to have a
Right.
show.
But like it has to be like, you know, kind of like
Worth
how
it.
I was joking on with my comment on our post on Instagram where I said, you know, give me a Ice Nine Kills show every weekend. Like
Yeah.
obviously I'm kidding, but at the
Yeah.
same time, if you can get an act like that, or maybe not even just one that big, but if you get like a, you know, just say you get like a decently well-known cover band to come in and
Yeah,
play
just
like
like cover
Halloween
horror
songs or
songs or
horror
something.
songs or whatever, you'd want to put them on a stage like that, I think, because you need to give enough space for people to kind of like mill about and listen to music or listen to the
Mhm.
music. I mean, I'm not saying you can't put musical acts on other stages, but
Mhm.
if it's a big enough act where you can fill the area and justify getting rid of that queue,
Mhm.
then it would make sense. But if you can't justify filling that area, then there's really no reason to get rid of the queue and just keep a house on a soundstage.
Yeah, and I'm
So
not sure.
that stage doesn't really work as
Yeah,
much
and
as
I
you'd like it
forget
to.
too exactly how the back of the queue works, but I'm sure like you could find a way to wrap more queue behind. It's almost like pushing all the stuff behind everything and just hiding it. I'm sure you could extend the queue a little bit more up towards the stage or back behind it, all while still having some of it up front, which is fine. But you know, even if it was like a 4-row queue, you could have people behind the line watching the stage show, whatever's going on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they can. I mean, they can find a way to make it. Queues are. I mean, queues are queues for a reason. Like you can set them up in a way you need, in any way you really need to, so they can make it work. I mean, I'm sure there's ways to like set queues up behind the stage or to the right of the stage or the left of the stage and make it work in some way. How that would happen, I don't know. I don't work there, but you know
Yeah,
what I'm
right.
saying. Like there's ways to make it work. I'm just not. I'm not 100% sold on is it worth it. Like
Yeah,
I just don't know. I mean, I don't know if they'll be able to pull anything in that's for me would make sense going to that trouble to open up that stage. To be
yeah,
honest,
yeah,
I mean, another area I was kind of thinking about too. Now that we're talking, is that alleyway between the backside of Transformers and Mel's, where they have the Transformer characters out during the
yeah,
day a lot.
yep.
If there was enough space between that building and the bathroom building area thing that's next to it, if
Hmm.
there's enough space to stick like, even like a smaller medium sized stage in that little area, if people were kind of hanging out back there, that's really not blocking off a big traffic area either.
Yeah,
I don't
you
know.
could like
Again,
if you leave that Blues Brothers alley open, you could put the stage almost right to like the front of like that. Is it a Christmas store or something like that? But that right where the food starts, you could put the stage there, cap it, so that way you can kind of walk back that way. But I'm curious where. But then you'd have to rotate wherever Stay and Scream enters for those houses. But again, it seems like a one of those pathways in that little quadrant in that area is a little unnecessary because it's one of them is just never getting used. It's just a simple pathway, so you
right.
could take one of those away, turn it into essentially a dead end with a stage at the end of it, and host something there. The other two that I had just for like long shots, they used to do shows at the Animal Actor stage. Now I'm not sure why they stopped hosting stuff there. But I mean that, and unless there's some logistical reason that I'm not aware of, um, I am still always left confused why that one's not utilized. Maybe this will be the year that like, say hypothetically we lose the Fear Factor stage and they still need to do a stage show and they just roll it in there. Maybe that'll translate, but I don't know why maybe it's just not being used because they don't want to do the two stage shows at a time right now. But maybe that's something we'll have answers to later on down the line if and when Fear Factor does shut down. What will their answer be? Because it would be a tough pill to swallow if they got rid of the Fear Factor stage and eliminated a stage show, because it's just going to increase the crowd like size, because all the people that were at those shows at that time are gonna have to be somewhere, and now they got nowhere to go. So it's just gonna be putting those people back out into the the lines in the scare zone. So they're going to have to do something if they eliminate the fear factor stage.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be that with the size of the crowds. I would assume that the size of the crowds have grown, every subsequent year, and maybe that pet stage or the animal stage just couldn't feasibly hold the number of people that were going to come into it regularly,
Mm-hmm.
and they had to use the fear factor stage for that reason. I mean, who knows? I mean, there is a good chance that Universal finds something else to kind of take the regular traffic during the day, maybe some other type of show, like not Fear Factor, but like obviously something else, and they have a reason to keep the stage. And then if that's the case, then they should be fine. They can keep putting on something for Horror Nights. But like we said before, the rumor was that they were going to take it down. They obviously haven't yet, so who knows? I mean, maybe they. I mean, again, we've said it before, and I don't want to go down this road again, but I don't see any reason for them to think that keeping it up just for Horror Nights would make any sense. Like, it's a lot of space back there that they could use for something else. That, just keeping it here because, for 2 months they want to run some sort of horror show for the Horror Nights event. That wouldn't make any sense. So if they're keeping it up, and they have been, it hasn't come down yet. They haven't started bringing it down yet. So, I mean, there's a good chance maybe something is going to replace Fear Factor, and the stage will just stay there. But
yeah, I guess the rumor was that it is to be, or it is or was to be demolished to add another like virtual reality style ride for the Harry Potter land, and they're going to expand that like out, cut that corner, and just make that
would
Harry
make
Potter
sense.
area even longer.
That would make some feasible sense, at least. For the regular park.
Yes,
I mean, obviously,
which
Harry
brings
Potter
in
is very popular,
their profit for 12 months of the year versus Horror Nights, which is 2 months
exactly,
of the year.
Right.
And no one's buying tickets for the stage show.
Right. And my guess is that at this point, they're probably not going to take the stage down now until at least they get closer to, is it Epic Adventures of the new park?
So, yeah, so Epic Universe. So I guess this ride was supposedly planned for them originally, but because everything got pushed because of COVID, they were just going to end up putting it at studios, so that way they could hopefully open it before Epic opens to kind of give the people what they want, I guess, a little bit earlier. So, I mean, it all sounds quick because supposedly Epic is summer of 25. I don't know how quickly they can just whip up, demolish Fear Factor, whip up a little extension to cover the rest of Harry Potter land and pop that thing in. That seems like it would take just about the same amount of time, but who knows how fast they can kind of pull that all off.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Obviously, this is all speculation. Like, nobody really knows anything. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, we're going to hang on now until we kind of figure out what's going on with this ride, and then
set a date, demolish on November 1st or whatever. Right? Like if we're at this point already in the year, and I mean, who knows what they're doing in there? Maybe they're stripping it. Maybe they're getting all the equipment out and pulling all the rigs, and so that way it's just a stadium and seats that they push over. But I haven't really looked into the stage to see if anything has kind of come, anything of value has been taken out, because that would obviously be the first steps. But I don't think they've filed any like demolition permits or anything like that yet. So it's still, as of what I saw online, nothing's happened.
Yeah, nothing yet. Anyways,
who knows? The last one I have as an option kind of goes hand in hand. That's and the last like location, and we'll kind of after this bridge over to possible shows or styles of shows or stuff that could be fun as a show, and where they would go, who knows? But one show I had in mind, I have nothing other than the concept in mind. But I mean, we have the Born Stuntacular show. We have the whole stadium in there that it seats a lot of people. What if, and now we're kind of branching into the possible show ideas, but I mean, if we did some sort of, if you've been in the show, the way they work the stage and moving like set props in and out, like is just flawless. It's tough to describe, but on the screen, they'll have actors walking in front of a screen and the background moves as if the character is walking down, this back alley or whatever. And then every now and then a couple pieces of what's on screen, like a building structure is kind of on wheels, and they wheel it out as if it's on the screen, so he can kind of interact with certain set pieces.
Yeah, it's
but that
got
would be
sensors built into the floor and
It's
built into the
crazy.
pieces, so they follow the track of the sensor. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's I don't know if it's infrared sensors or if it's sonar sensors or whatever. I forget what they said it was, but yeah, they basically wheel them out kind of across the stage. And the stage itself doesn't move, or your seats don't
No,
move.
no.
It feels like you're moving, but it doesn't. It just, you kind of
Yep.
sit in one spot and you watch the different stunts happen at once. So
But it would be
yeah,
cool if they had a show in there, and I thought it would be cool if they had a Universal Monster style one, because you can do.
yeah.
And I know, like, the programming for this, like, this is just a ridiculous concept. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the show we don't need. You don't need to really program all the choreograph the fights and the stunts, and you don't have
No,
to
you
use
could
the
almost
wheel
you could
thing.
almost just make use of the video effects and
Yep,
the characters, and you probably could have
a couple set pieces that
set
move. Like,
pieces, but you wouldn't necessarily need it. I mean, obviously that's part of the show, but that's more of the stunt aspect of it.
mhm.
Um, the problem I see with it is just how many shows are they going to have to run and how often they have to run them, because I feel like, and maybe I don't know, maybe the numbers really aren't that different during the day for the stunt show, but like I feel like you would need to like do it a lot, you know?
Yeah, I forget what they run. I think they run like every hour or every like 45 minutes or something. It's a 30-minute show. Obviously it doesn't have to be that long for the actual show, because this, I think the built-in 30 minutes, they build in that little video intro where you stand in the room, you watch the TV, and then you go in to watch the show. So like if you did like a little 15-20 minute show, and you could just do something simple, like there's just somebody that's trying to hunt monsters, and that's why he goes to the castle, and he
It could
sees
be a Van Helsing
Frankenstein the
show.
bride, and yeah, and you could do something like that. This is why he's at the swamp now, and this is why he's at the Phantom of the Opera's area and stuff like that. And that's just one little main character that is traveling about to the different little areas to visit our favorite little monsters. But I think that was really the first initial thought that came to my mind with that stage, because I was like, I don't, I guess you could maybe do something with like the icons as well, in the similar sense of like you see some cool scenery and stuff like that. But I feel like set piece wise, for like multi-purpose reasons, the sets for Universal Monsters could be very generic and be reused for something else, when it's just like a castle entrance facade or something of that sort. It's an actual organ that the Phantom would be playing. I think that would just be fun to kind of see that world in that style of medium, because it's been house, and which is great. But imagine seeing those houses in like the bright lights stage and that video. I'm sure it would take a lot to create that, but I think it would just be insane. So I guess we can jump into like musical aspects when we kind of break our, kind of breaking from that stage show style. Music. Because I feel like this one's pretty quick. If there were any of the stages that we'd mentioned, obviously we're not gonna get Ice Nine Kills.
Hey, don't kill my dreams, man.
Right. But like you mentioned, like some sort of like just cover bands, like any kind of
Yeah, I
cover,
mean, you could
like
find
rockabilly,
probably
rock,
some.
like horror music. Like
I mean, they
if
may
you,
even. I mean, hell, they may even have like people in their entertainment department, like some like the talent they already have hired may have, maybe they could throw together a cover band, or even not even cover band, just like somebody gets up on stage, a few people that get up on stage and like sing covers, like Monster Mash, like just do that type
yeah,
of stuff, or do like a a medley of Rocky Horror Picture Show songs. You know what I mean? Like you could do things like that.
yep,
It doesn't necessarily have to be a band. Now, granted, obviously, I would love to see like an Ice Nine Kills show, but they're never gonna
yeah,
like, because you notice how like they'll do like the free concert series, kind of like how Disney does it at Epcot, where they'll have like some of like the older I don't want to say washed up bands, but some of the bands that are like not popular anymore. They
They're
were popular in
riding
the
out what
90s.
fame they have
Right,
left.
like the Goo Goo Dolls. Like
I was just gonna say
who's chasing the Goo Goo Dolls anymore?
I love them, but they're at Universal for
Yeah, they're playing
this.
Universal shows now. So like if they could do something like that, like
Yeah.
get a bunch of like, not washed up bands, but some of like the bands that were like kind of like, I'm trying to think if there's anything like in particular that I could think of. There really isn't.
No, I mean band wise in that respect, what we're talking about is like it would end up being those same people, which genre wise or music style like would make no sense.
Right.
So it would have to we'd have to force them like, hey, well, what can you play Monster Mash 30 times? Thanks, Goo Goo Dolls.
Yeah, no, but I mean, they have enough talent that I think they could probably put something together.
Yeah, but I don't know if they would. But I would just do like a straight like, find some band that is strictly covers songs or whatever, and book them out for the 2 months and give them some horror outfits or whatever, and just be like, oh well, here's your set list or whatever. Pick what you think you want to do, and we'll just kind of make it happen. They can do quick like little 15-minute sets every one every like hour or every hour and a half or so and stuff like that, just to kind of draw people to that little area for a little bit and try to alleviate some of the stress level of everybody else. Another one that I thought of, and it's not necessarily music, but like a Blue Man Group style horror thing. Obviously it wouldn't be on PVC pipes with like marshmallows and stuff like that, but you could do something with like that it's almost like a mix between that and like the little construction worker.
I was just gonna say, I am honestly surprised they don't have something with those guys. Just dress them up in like horror, like costumes, like horror, like make it horror-ified. You know what I mean? Have them do like horror movie themes.
Yeah,
on the drums.
You could do like orchestra style like themes of different things. Like if you had like the Halloween theme played on like those big oil drum kind of things, but
right.
You could put like how the Blue Men have like the paint that you could have like red paint for blood and stuff like that. You could do some fun stuff with like UV lights on that, and like especially when it's dark out, you could really have a field day with the lighting aspect of it. And I think that would just be entertaining. Again, a short little 15-20 minute thing that happens every other hour or something, or every hour, and that could be on a little smaller stage, like you said, over in that Blue Man Alley, or even if they did that in the Conjure the Dark area, which I know it's San Francisco, but like the stage aspect of it, it just makes it easier to mentally picture that aspect, that thing happening over there. So I mean, in regards to like music and like I guess sound style things, I mean aside of doing like just a DJ, is there anything else that like kind of comes to mind for you? Because I mean that's really what I had for the music aspect of shows.
No, I mean, like I said, I would just put a guy up there and sing Monster Mash 30 times a night. But, I mean, it's tough with music because outside of a DJ or some sort of cover band or an actual band, there really isn't a whole lot you can do. I mean, you can obviously like include music in a lot of different things, but specifically music, I mean, what else do you do other than singers? You know what I mean?
So I guess we can kind of bridge our way from the musical aspect to like the stage show aspect of things. And one that I thought would be interesting, I started looking back at like some like older houses that we just recently saw, but like I feel like it would be kind of cool to have like Pasek's Puppet Troupe do like a puppet show, but it's like the remnants of the puppet theater, so it's like orchestra style show, and like the people are actually like dressed up with marionettes with like wires on them. It's it's real people playing, but they have strings attached to them, so it looks like they're being puppeted to make the sounds like that. I thought that would be a cool way to like mesh the two, so you could have it stage showy with the main people coming out, introducing his new puppet trope and kind of explaining the backstory and the history a little bit more of that house, and bringing it to life. Because we saw the aftermath. We saw the people that have been in there and mutilated and stuff like that. But it would be funny if, lo and behold, years later, he dug them all up. They're preserved and he's rolling them out for a countrywide show or something or nationwide concert series and stuff like that. And he's having these people play these, horrific sounds. And again, it would be just very, it wouldn't be much. I probably wouldn't even add vocals to it. I would just have like a very macabre style, like instrumental theater style sound, which would
you
be
could have
cool
like
to tie in with that house.
like the mutilated corpses like reanimated, and it's like people, but like they're supposed to be dummies, they're supposed to be puppets or whatever.
Yeah.
And it could be like Pasek's traveling, ventriloquist show or something, not ventriloquist, but something along those lines.
Yeah.
And have them kind of be like attached to this like what looks like a big machine in the stage,
Mhm.
and it like moves them around like puppets and stuff like that. That would be kind of cool. And
Yeah.
just kind of put it to weird piano music, like off-key piano music.
Yes. Yeah. And just really like grotesque sound. And
Yeah, and this would be something, I think honestly this would be something like what we have with Halloween with Zombieland, where it's like it's not like a full 30-minute show, but
yeah.
like every 10-15 minutes they come out and do like a 5-minute act and have it change a few
Yeah.
times throughout the night, so it's not always the same thing.
You could have them have like 5 or 6 different sets and they just rotate
Yeah.
like
Right.
every other one. So like within 3 hours, if you go see every show, you could have seen every single performance. But for the most part, when you see it, it'll typically, if you're not like us and go all the time, it would typically be almost like a special, like one-off kind of situation.
Yeah, like you'd see a different show like every
Yep.
night.
So now like leaning fully, I guess, into the stage show aspect of it, where it's not like, music centric. Because that puppet theater one would really have a good split, half and half, but these would be more stage show styles. In the past they've done, like I mentioned earlier, the Jack's Carnival of Carnage, and then the Carnage Returns, which is kind of like, I mean, it was Jack and Chance. It was like a torture show, and then there was just a bunch of like sexy dancers. It was like half Jack and then half of like the dancing aspect of Halloween Nightmare Fuel without like as much of the pyro. There was still some pyro, but as much as like the magic and stuff, it wasn't involved like that. But I would you want to see like Jack as a show again? I mean, you haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I mean, I'd like to see it. I mean, I would imagine that people that have seen all of it probably are like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that again. But I mean, I would like to, I would like to experience it.
Yeah.
Maybe involve more than just Jack. Like, I don't
Mhm.
know how many icons were a part of it, if it was just him, but like if you involved maybe a couple more icons in it or something like that, or
Mhm.
even if it wasn't a Jack's Carnival of Carnage and you made something else having to do with like Cary, Ohio too, and have
Yeah.
a Cary, Ohio stage show.
Mhm.
And they just act out some sort of stage show or something along those lines. I mean, the problem is that like these do kind of devolve into, like you just said, the best way to describe it is sexy dancing. Like I feel like
Mhm.
it's like the fallback. It's like, well,
Yeah.
we'll do a stage show, but we're gonna add a bunch of half naked girls dancing too, because
Yeah.
that'll get people to get people to
Just
stop.
throw a
And, like,
bunch of leather pants on the
and, like-
guys and then
and, like,
corsets on the
right,
girls and let
and
them
it-
go.
And it's like, sure, like
That's
I
fine,
get-
but
I
like,
get, I get that's what you're gonna. I mean, I get that's what a lot of things kind of just become at this event, but like I would prefer more nuance to it than just that. Like I'm not complaining. I'm obviously still a
I'll take it. But
red-blooded straight white guy. Like I'm not gonna like complain, but at the same time, it's like it is almost kind of niche. Like not everybody wants to just sit there and watch that. Like
yeah,
it is it's fine for what it is. Like if you do like the Rob Zombie scare zone, like it kind of fit.
if it's
and
an
made sense.
aspect of it, yeah,
It made sense because it fits the theme. But if like you have like a Jack stage show and it's Jack and then also a bunch of random girls in, like you said, leather pants, like is that
yeah, it
really-
doesn't. For me, it doesn't. They don't. It blends two genres that aren't
I guess the point is, I'm
necessarily.
not going to sit there, every night I go and watch it. I mean, I might
Yeah.
sit there and watch it once just to say I did it,
Mhm.
but it would need to be something more specifically like revolving around Jack and or the rest of the icons. So like
Yeah.
have Jack and Chance, and then maybe or even if it's just like Jack and Chance present and do something along the lines of that nature, whereas
Mhm.
like he's presenting a story or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's where I kind of am going down that rabbit hole now of like, all right, so what other icons?
I mean, I wouldn't
I
even
don't
mind if it was like, Jack up on stage and he's just roasting people in the audience.
right,
It's like doing straight
like
up
comedy
crowd
style.
work.
I think that was like there was an aspect of that as well, but I'm trying to think like I'm going down the list and I had one icon on here, but I also just thought of another one that would be interesting enough. So we'll go on the one that I had because we got like just a tiny, tiny, tiny sample size of this, and that's the Terror Queen. And we had that very small sample size a couple years ago during the
Yeah, I mean, because
party event,
she was just kind of a
just
part
there
of
doing a
the
sacrifice.
yeah,
But it
she's
would,
just kind of a part of the scare zone.
but it would be cool if you had her or storyteller because it's sort of told through the storyteller. But if you had them give the full in-depth story of like the whole Terra Crentis world and kind of going through that whole folklore. We've done an episode before on that way 2.5 years ago now at this point of the full story of like what it actually is, but the whole cycle of how we get to the Terra throne and kind of all the sacrifices that are made. That would be an interesting way to kind of put some light on an icon that I feel like is sometimes forgotten about, and I think has one of the most in-depth world building backstories. All the other ones, I mean, they all have, you look at Jack the Clown's backstory and it is extensive, but at the end of the day,
The clown.
it's he's singular
Right.
versus the Terra Queen and the Terra Crentis was an entire world full of
Yeah, I
different
would love to
characters.
learn more about her character and her
Hmm.
world, and what
Yeah.
kind of makes her who she is. I don't think we get that a lot, and we didn't get a lot of that during the events that involved the icons. At least the ones that I've been to so far.
Hmm.
Like when she was in front of the scare zone, like if you didn't tell me she was Terror Queen, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
At least
It was
at
just
least
it
that's
was
how I
forgotten
feel.
about.
And
Yeah.
I feel like no one would really know who it was. I mean, obviously the Uber fans, the super fans that have been going for 20 years, they'd probably recognize her. But again, for me, people like me, if you had told me that that's who it was, I would never have guessed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was definitely almost like a little forgotten style thing. But then the other icon I thought about, which would be fun, was if we gave the director and the usher a show, and they like were showing some of their films and stuff like that. And if we got all of those B-rated horror or CD-rated horror movies that they've showcased in some of their other houses in the past, if we brought those to life and they shot like footage from some of those, and put them on like a screen essentially, and you could theme the screen around like a movie theater. You could have the red drapes on the side and stuff like that. I thought that would be, just off the top of my head, I thought that would be pretty interesting because
Yeah, that
those
would
are
be, I'm surprised they haven't done something like that before. Because that, like, I feel like that kind of like the both of those characters lend themselves right to that. So I'm surprised they've never taken the time to like film clips from their movies and then showing them
yeah
off. So that is a cool idea.
yeah. I thought it would be, and you could have it almost like on a projector reel and have it sort of in the just kind of him showcasing his work, I guess. But yeah, you could have that sort of like all the stuff from Slaughter Cinema and the houses. You can kind of dive into those movies a little bit and have it's almost like a like a screening, like he's there presenting his projects and doing like Q&As on it and stuff like that. And you could have that back and forth between guests in that respect, because that's also one thing that I do think is missing with these shows and characters is that live mic for the actors. I feel like oftentimes they don't. We've talked about this in the past. They just do like they put audio over and you lip sync to it versus letting these actors act, and that's what they get. I mean, you get cast as an actor and actress, and yet you don't really use that skill. You're just like, all right, well, here's your lines.
Yeah,
Learn how
they're
to mimic the
very much
words and go with it.
more like physical acting
Yeah.
more than it's like actual like lines and that sort of thing.
Hmm. I guess we can call him an icon at this point, but maybe a little redemption tour for the Pumpkin Lord. If he had a show and he wasn't just farting and burping the whole time,
Yeah.
Diving into like the history of Halloween and his whole story.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if we're talking about like if this is specifically we're talking about like this upcoming event. I'm not sure I'd want him 3 years in a row. I don't
Yeah,
know. I feel like we don't want the burnout. Now, granted, if we're just talking like stage show
in
ideas,
general, yeah.
I think it would work. I think he lends himself again kind of to a stage. The problem is you don't want it to end up being what it was this year, where he's just standing in a big platform to look like this big pumpkin, and he can't really move because he's attached to the pumpkin. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you almost want to be able to have him have the ability to move around and walk around. Um, but yeah, I mean, I could see that. To me, it would almost be just like instead of Jack's Carnival of Carnage, it would be Pumpkin Lord's Pumpkin Patch of Terror or something like that.
yeah,
I mean, something along those lines, where it's kind of like the same show, just with a different character.
yeah. This is a different MC essentially.
Yeah.
Um, I do have one last idea. The idea is very loose because I don't know what the basis of it would be. Um, but this was a scare zone from a couple years ago, and they had a stage. But I think it would be interesting to to give them a bigger stage, and that would be doing a vanity ball style stage show where it is essentially a more elaborate fashion show of the macabre, where it's just like these ridiculously tortured up costumes of flesh and skin, bone, stuff like that, and putting that on an actual bigger stage outside of a scare zone, so it's its own thing, and you could literally have like the vanity ball, because it was, back then they did have like the announcer and they did like the little runway, but the runway was probably 10, 15 feet long, but doing a legitimate like fashion show.
Yeah, they didn't
And
really give you a whole reason to stop and watch. Like
no, it was
they'd have to
definitely
come up with a way to like actually get you to sit, like not just sit, but stop and pay attention for 15, 20 minutes.
yeah, I would be, I would definitely go to, if they had this at, I mean, anywhere, if they did it at any of the sound stages, or and we talked about the animal stage, the animal actor stage, if the reasoning why they left was like lighting or pyro or stuff like, this isn't something that you need that for. This is simply a like a ridiculous over the top fashion show hosted by whomever, and kind of going into the backstory, I guess, a little bit of that scare zone. You could explain the the whys and all that stuff, and you could kind of introduce some new characters in that respect, and you could have, essentially, you could try to, if people gravitate towards it, the conductor or the MC or whatever that runs the vanity ball could, you could dive into that character a little bit and develop that person. I think you could, I think that world of like fashion hasn't really been elaborated upon too much in HHN, and this would be a cool way to like shine a light on it a little bit more and see if that's something that people gravitate towards, because then you could go back and do that as a house at some point, do a vanity ball house. But I would be interested to see the turnout of a horror fashion show.
Yeah, be interesting.
But that's man, that's what we got. Again, I didn't think we'd get too much out of this one because we were pulling some stuff last minute. I'm sure there's plenty of other ideas. We'd love to hear your show ideas. So if you do have any, let us know. But I think that's all we got for this week for this topic, unless you have anything else that you anything else you've been sitting on.
Nope, I think that kind of covers everything. I mean, again, shows are great to break up the monotony of the event. So I'm not never opposed to having something outside of scare zones and houses to kind of stop and watch. So if they were to add things to it, I wouldn't complain. Well, my thought is they'd almost have to pick one or two of the areas we kind of talked about, or where they kind of already have them set up, and just kind of stick them there. Like you really can't have a whole bunch, but if they were to put one
No.
or two stages in for the event and they could make it work and it was feasible to keep them up throughout the day, I think that would be great. And add some musical some music to it, or even even if he did like a DJ and did like a horror DJ
Yeah.
and just have like a block party. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
would be a nice way to block to break it up. Put a couple of those drink carts in like an area where people can kind of hang out, listen to some music, and just it's one of those things where it's like you have like a place to kind of just stop for a minute.
Just
Like you've walked
relax. Yeah,
around all
kind of
night.
just
Like
sit down,
you
chill.
have your food options, you've got your places where you can get drinks or whatever, but make it like a little like outdoor nightclub type thing. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like if you've ever been in Vegas, like they do it in Vegas all the time, but they have outdoor nightclub type stuff.
Yeah, because they have to find a way to start dispersing some of the people. Yeah, it's something that has to happen at some point in the near future. So hopefully they listen to some of these ideas. We'll see. Next week we are going to be kicking off February, and we figured it's been long enough. We have to dive into our killer reviews. We have to watch a new movie, or not a new movie, but we have to watch a movie. And I figured, it's right around the corner from Valentine's Day. This series is going to be at Horror Nights this year. So why not dive into the whole Chucky franchise? Why don't we sit down and watch The Bride of Chucky? So that's what we're going to be having for you next week. A little killer review action. I haven't seen this movie in probably a
I haven't
decade.
watched this movie in a very long time. I wonder if it's on something. I might have to go buy it.
I'm excited to check it out because I want to get into the show. But before I do the show, I want to rewatch the series. So I'm going to rewatch up to Bride of Chucky, and then I'll wait for Bride of Chucky for our killer review. But that's what we got coming up for you next week. But until then, this is Nick.
And this is Seamus.
Happy Hans.
This is cursed. Cursed. It's got a death curse.
It's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare.
And again, I would just like to thank Vampire Stepdad for letting us use his music for our intro and outro music. So if you would, just go check him out. Spotify, Facebook. Again, that is Vampire Stepdad.